Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, August 2nd, 2024. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by my guys, Steve Helwagen and Patrick Murphy, in just a moment. All of Ohio State's practice was open yesterday. All of today's practice is going to be open later this morning. And, we have a practice report on Bucknuts, videos, pictures, more stories, a little bit of everything. And we have the full Ryan Day press conference. I'm going to get Steve and Patrick's thoughts on what stood out to them the most yesterday during the first day of fall camp. We're going to start with quarterbacks, and we'll go from there. Before we do that, I want to let you guys know about our good friends at Manscaped. Sizzle alert this summer. Let the only thing smoking at your barbecue be the grill, not your grooming game. Get ready for the ultimate cookout season with Manscaped. Whether you're flipping burgers or cannonballing into the pool, that's what Steve likes to do. Steve's a big cannonball into the pool guy. Make sure your meat looks neat with the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra. Fire up your grooming routine and keep it cool with Manscaped. Head to manscaped.com and use code Bucknuts for 20% off and free shipping. Let's make this summer sizzle for all the right reasons. Again, 20% off, free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code Bucknuts. Manscaped, the perfect way to get your patties sizzling hot this summer. Pat Murphy's always sizzling hot. My patty's always sizzling hot. All right, boys.
There he is.
All right, boys. Let's start with quarterback. Pat, we'll start with you. What did you see yesterday at the quarterback position? How do you think it's going to play out?
I think we saw things pick up where they were from spring practice. There were inconsistencies by all of the guys. I think Devin Brown, in my estimation, had the best day, but it still wasn't perfect. Will Howard, I thought, made some nice throws. I still don't know how good of a thrower he is downfield in terms of his accuracy, but there were some nice throws. As I know you noted in our practice report from yesterday, Dave, there was a lot of checkdowns. And so, hard to evaluate some of those things. Devin Brown hit Carnell Tate on a deep pass, but it was a little bit underthrown. Carnell Tate recognized it, and I think it was Calvin Simpson-Hunt defending him, went back and high-pointed the ball. So still a mixed bag, and I noted this in the comments for our practice report. For me, the difference right now between Devin Brown, who is taking the first-team reps, and Will Howard is timing with the receivers and chemistry. And I think if Will Howard gets that all figured out, and remember, the guy's only practiced with these receivers in any sort of live setting 15 times. I think if he figures it out, there's the opportunity to step ahead of Devin Brown, who's been in the program 2 years. Julian Sayin continues to make some really nice throws, and then there are some freshman moments. I think Aaron Nolan and Lincoln Keenhold still have some work to do. They threw picks on back-to-back plays, both to walk-ons, which you don't like to see. But all in all, I think it was a lot of what we saw from the spring. I think it's practice one of however many 20-some practices they're going to have before the season starts. And what we need to see now is progress being made every time we're out there, or at least when we talk to the coaching staff.
It used to be 29 practices in camp. I believe it's 25 now. I believe they pared that down a few years ago from 29 to 25. It was 29 for many years. Steve, your thoughts on the quarterbacks? What did you see yesterday that stood out to you? And again, forecast how you think it's going to play out.
Yeah, I continue to believe it's Will Howard's job to lose. There's going to be up days. There's going to be down days. As you said, over 3.5 weeks of practice, all totaled, before they play the first game. So I feel like you don't bring a guy in here with his kind of experience and not play him. Devin Brown is going to have to really stack one great day on top of another to steal that job away, I think, from Will Howard. I don't see the freshman Julian Sayin taking over anytime soon. I think that this is a learning year for him. I think that makes the most sense. Obviously, if something were to happen to some people and they needed somebody to count on, then you put him in the game. But I think that Will Howard, I agree with what you guys said. I thought Brown, on the whole, seemed to maybe have that chemistry with the receivers perhaps a little bit more, but Howard also made a few nice throws throughout the day. And again, it's just day one, no pads, and not real football, just kind of on air. And we'll see, obviously, sooner rather than later, the pads are going to go on and they'll be under duress, and you have to produce results when you're under duress. I think that's an area where Howard is going to shine in that format. So I think with him, his willingness to run, ability to run, he's big, indestructible. He can move the chains on 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 if there's nothing there. So that's kind of where I'm looking at it right now.
All right, we're going right down. Go ahead, Patrick.
Real quick, Steve, that just triggered my memory there. Handful of times, Will Howard, Devin Brown, I think they were read plays, but they kept the ball and there was green grass in front of them. And both of them, I thought, made the right decision there, assuming it was a read. And look, this team, Ryan Day said it, but I think we saw it more on the first day of practice. These quarterbacks are going to run, and they appeared to be comfortable, both Will Howard and Devin Brown, doing that.
Yeah, it was fun being out there and seeing all that yesterday. And as we all know, I talked to a guy that's been over there since, and he's not afraid to talk about, since the first practice of 1969, Larry Romanoff, and I had a long conversation over there. He's been there a long time. He was like, and he's saying what a lot of Buckeyes are saying, if those quarterbacks and those big guys in front of the quarterbacks can get the job done this year, we're winning it all. And that's exactly right. So we talked about the quarterbacks. Let's move to the offensive line. Steve, we'll start with you on this one. What did you now? Yesterday we didn't see that much. I mean, they're not actually like playing real football yet. But we did get some up close look at the offensive line. What stood out to you, and what do you expect from this offensive line this year?
Were you saying that to me, Dave? It kind of cut out for a second.
Yep.
Okay.
Offensive line. Go.
Yeah, I liked what I saw yesterday. I saw guys who were leaning out and who were looking athletic. And again, you've got so many offensive linemen on this roster that if something were to happen, you can put Shabola or Montgomery in there and not even miss a beat, or George Fitzpatrick or whoever it might be. Josh Padilla, Jacob Padilla, 62.
Josh Padilla. You got Austin
Sierreveld. Yeah, all those guys are probably on the 2 deep. And Padilla was working at center yesterday, and so was Montgomery a little bit because Carson Hinsman wasn't there.
Right.
And
everything's okay with it for those that are wondering. Everything's
fine.
Hinsman
was fine, just sick yesterday.
Yeah,
and we'll find out later, if he was able to make it back in. But I just think that there's so much. There's been a lot of negativity about it. I think that they put the 7 months since that terrible game against Missouri behind them and worked really hard because they have to. The offensive line has got to come through for this team to be a national championship contender. And, first days being what they were, again, no pads. You're not having to pass rush, against, somebody who's full on out trying to get that quarterback. The first day was a good one.
Patrick, same thing, man. What stood out to you from the O-line, and how do you expect this will turn out with the O-line? Are they going to be what Buckeye fans want them to be?
That is the $1 million question, right? Like you said.
Way to put you on the spot, huh?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they are, then this team could be, as good as any team in Ohio State history, as good as, any team in the country this season. If they're not, I still think there's a pathway to success. We saw it last year as this team developed. They leaned on the defense, which I think they can do again at times this year. They leaned on the running game at times, doing some different things to get the ball out quickly. So there's still a pathway to success if this offensive line isn't elite. But look, the makings of it are there, right? Donovan Jackson, back for his 4th year, probably could have gone to the NFL. We know everything there is to know about him. I think Josh Simmons took steps last season, and we heard Ryan Day talk about him yesterday after practice and just kind of his continued growth, having a full offseason at Ohio State. To me, Seth McLaughlin's the guy at center. I don't know why you need to keep throwing Carson Hinsman's name in there. It seems pretty apparent to me that you brought him in, like Steve said about Will Howard, to be the guy. I guess you want some competition and whatnot.
Maybe doing him a solid since he started all of last year until he didn't start. And they said that was because of snapping issues. BS. Yeah. We all know that that's not why he didn't play in the Cotton Bowl. He talked a little too much on a podcast, but yeah, I think they want to respect Carson Hinsman and keep him in the mix. I'm with you, Patrick, though. We know from one of our colleagues who told us, like, Seth McLaughlin is going to be the center. And you heard it from somebody very high up. So, yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. I mean, the question is the right side, right? Has Josh Fryer taken that leap that we've heard about all offseason? Physically, he's changed his body. He's more mentally ready after a year as a starter. And then who is your right guard? I think those are the two questions that you can't answer yet because, as Steve said, as Ryan Day said, pads aren't on. The offensive linemen really can't do everything they would do until things really get physical. So I'm in wait and see mode with the offensive line. But from everything we've heard from guys we've talked to, I think I'm more optimistic than I was maybe at the end of last season going into the offseason. And, we're going to just have to see how it plays out. But I would say cautiously optimistic that things are moving in the right direction.
All right, let's start with you on this one. Will linebacker. We're going right down the list. We had quarterbacks, offensive line. Who's going to be the will linebacker? And I'm kind of like, and I don't know if you guys disagree on this. I kind of feel like it almost doesn't matter because I think both CJ Hicks and Sonny Styles are going to play a lot and play well this year. I mean, it matters. But how do you see that playing out, Patrick? Do you think one of those guys is going to seize the job and they're going to be the guy? Are they going to rotate? Might they have some of those three linebacker looks? What do you expect to happen with Sonny Styles and CJ Hicks?
Yeah, I think you're right. It probably doesn't matter too much because you're talking about two former 5-star kids who have now both been in the program 2 years. But also, I think if maybe one of those guys doesn't emerge and you kind of have to play with it a little bit, you can, I don't want to say hide a linebacker, but with so much talent on this defense, I think you can scheme things so that you can't expose one of those guys necessarily. Not that I think they're going to be exposed, but looking at the way things were on Thursday, Sonny Styles got reps with the first team, which I was thinking back to spring. He might have gotten some first team reps at some point in there, but not a ton. It was CJ Hicks more often than not. So that was good to see. Now, granted, first team is a relative term when you're split up into two different fields, but you like to see Sonny Styles get some looks with Cody Simon to see what that looks like because, I mean, Sonny Styles looks the part, no doubt about it, and not a doubt that CJ Hicks can do it too, but I want to see a little bit more Sonny Styles to kind of compare and contrast there. But I think it's a good problem to have. If both those guys look good, sometimes you could play the three linebackers because of what Sonny's background is in. And then I think, you're probably in a good position either way.
Steve, will linebacker, how do you forecast this? Your thoughts on Sonny Styles, what you saw yesterday, CJ Hicks, your thoughts on that situation?
Yeah, I think it's real interesting. What does Jim Knowles and what do Jim Knowles and James Laurinaitis want to see? What do they want to get? What kind of a look do they want to present? What kind of personnel do they want on the field? What are they trying to do? And again, you'd have to ask them explicitly, and we'll get Jim Knowles after today's practice, and ask him what are the things just in general that you're looking for with Sonny Styles that maybe that you don't get out of CJ Hicks or vice versa, and in what kind of down and distance or defensive set do you think that is going to be more likely that we would see one or the other? So, yeah, it again, I can't explain it. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how Sonny Styles goes from being almost an every down player last year at safety and reasonably good at it to maybe playing 2/3 of the snaps at the most, maybe half. I mean, how does this look? How does it, do you play three linebackers at times and only 4 DBs? I mean, what are we doing? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think the mad scientist Jim Knowles has got his ideas on how it all comes together, but CJ Hicks is coming on. There's no doubt about it. He had a great spring, and I think he's maybe the next in the line of great Ohio State linebackers. But where does that leave Sonny Styles? Does he play instead of Cody Simon on some downs? I honestly don't know the answer to any of these questions. And we may not know until 3 or 4 weeks into the season when it's put into play in an actual game and you get to see, oh, that's the package that they're using Sonny Styles, and this is the package that they're using CJ Hicks. Like, who's the better run stopper? Who's better in coverage? Who's the better pass rusher? Heck if I know. So I guess we'll see, when the season begins.
This is the fun. We get to learn little tidbits of information when we watch practice. And then you're right, Steve. Then it's just a deluge of information when the actual games begin. There's no more like, well, we're not sure about this. It just works itself out, and I can't wait. And I know it's Akron. And this is not a surprise. ESPN ranked Ohio State as the easiest non-conference slate in the country. They recognize that Ohio State's got a tough intra-conference slate. But, yeah, man, I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun to see how things like
you had the easiest one the last 2 years? The University of Michigan. You know who won the national championship last year? The University of Michigan. You know what difference it makes what your non-conference schedule is? 0. Win your league, get a top 4 seed, and win 3 games and you're national champion.
Yet the next 2 years, Ohio State's going to do a home and home with Texas, and then the 2 years after that, a home and home with Alabama. So this is going to be a blip on the radar type of situation. All right, I got to do one more read, and we're going back to Ohio State football. Got to tell you guys again about our friends at Manscaped. I'm going to tell you about the products that I like the most. They've got like a ton of great products. Patrick is a subscriber. He can tell you about this. 3 of my favorites are the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, the Weed Whacker 2.0. That's an ear and nose hair trimmer. Can't have the ear and nose hair. Nobody likes that. You got to get rid of the ear and nose hair. This makes it easy. And the Handyman. The Handyman is a small, compact face trimmer that is powerful. It's like an awesome facial trimmer, as you can tell, right? So anyway, I really recommend all of these products. Like, Manscaped is great. And again, you guys can get a fantastic deal. 20% off free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. 20% off free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. The perfect way to get your patties sizzling hot this summer. All right, running back depth, smooth transition. Steve, running back depth. If you're coaching this team, because Ryan does not seem concerned about it. I guess we'll go to Patrick. Steve's having a little Patrick, if you're coaching this team, he's saying, I'm not concerned about it. Like, when are you really down to your 5th running back anyway? The Peach Bowl 2 years ago, you were. But I see what he's saying. Like, if they stay reasonably healthy, they're going to be more than fine. But it's running backs. You got 2 studs. Then your other 2 scholarship running backs are true freshmen, and I like both of them. And then you've got 2 walk-ons, and that's it. That's it, and they've got contingency plans. You mentioned Lorette. You said something really good on our I'll just let you say it, but there's contingency plans in place. Tell the good people about that.
Yeah, certainly. And we talked about a couple of walk-ons that'll be a part of the conversation now that TC Caffey's out as well. But somebody I mentioned, just keep an eye on it, is Lorenzo Styles Jr., who I've heard a little bit that he might be playing some offense this year, which is what he did at Notre Dame. He was playing wide receiver at Notre Dame. And not that it was mentioned to me that he'd play running back, but just that where else does he fit on offense? Not that running back's been – yeah, right. Yep. So if there is if you are tweaking some things to put him on the offensive side of the ball, I don't think you need more depth in the receiver room, especially as I put out on Twitter and put in our thread. My biggest takeaway was Demarion Witten. He's a wide receiver. He's not a tight end. I don't even think he worked with the tight end. So you don't need more depth at wide receiver. If Lorenzo Styles is working on the offensive side of the ball, could he do some running back stuff or something different to carry the ball, help in the backfield? I think that would be interesting. I think Coach Day's point is valid. I think you also make a good point, Dave, that it wasn't that long ago that you did get down near 5th running back. Now, It was one game late in the season, but that could happen one game late in the season here. And, if you have running backs, like Travion Henderson and if you're playing with the full deck there, perhaps you don't have to rely on CJ Stroud as much. Perhaps Marvin Harrison doesn't get hurt. Perhaps you score more in the red zone and maybe you win that game and win the national championship. So I think it is a concern. I think they are happy with the depth that they have and these contingency plans potentially. But, if there are some injuries, and remember, Travion Henderson, he's been banged up every year of his career, including his freshman season when he played every game. He came out of a lot of games earlier than I think they normally would just because he was dealing with little minor things. So I mean, it's nice to have Quinshon Judkins put in there, but that guy has a ton of carries already. I'm not hoping for injuries. Knock on wood here. Let's hope they stay healthy and don't have to worry about it. But
yeah, in 2022, I want to get Steve's thoughts on this too. In 2022, obviously, I point to the Georgia game as the prime example because it is. But the game before that for Ohio State, Michigan, they were down to Chip Trayanum started that game. He hadn't played that much. That was at least going into last year. He had repped at running back throughout spring and repped at running back throughout camp. That year, he was a linebacker that they converted to running back. Obviously, he was a running back in high school and all that. He started the Michigan game because they were so depleted. And Dallin Hayden barely played. They were basically down to 2 running backs for the Michigan game. So, yeah, I don't agree that, oh, yeah, we're going to be fine. We never need a 5th running back. But they've got good contingency plans. I agree with you about Lorenzo Styles. I know you're hearing that. You're not just making this up, or you're not just pontificating. You're hearing this from sources that this could happen. I like that. Brandon Ennis could be a guy that they mix in a little bit. He's not going to go back there and get 10 carries a game, but you can give him the ball, a Mecca, things like that. Steve, your thoughts on running back depth, the running back room as a whole? Break down the running backs for me, bud.
Well, they'd be in a world of hurt if they hadn't brought in Quinshon Judkins. I'll say that. I mean, Dallin Hayden potentially might have stayed, I guess, but, kind of a tough situation there at running back. And Coach Day did say after practice that obviously James Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon are going to get plenty of work as well. Yeah. And they lament the fact that they're also missing Caffey, the great walk-on who has done a few things here and there over his time at Ohio State. He's out with injury. But, Henderson in and out of the lineup the last 2 years. And can he go the distance? Will he need to go the distance with Judkins taking, 15 or 20 carries a game and Henderson getting 15 carries a game? What happens? Do I want to put one over the other? It could be a case where they end up both starting 6 games during the regular season. I don't know. I don't really care. That's Carlos Laughlin's domain, I suppose, to figure that out. Will we see times when they're on the field together? Man, that would be kind of cool. But
yes, I think we will.
Chip's in there cooking that up.
Yeah.
Not a lot. I bet we'll see it. Yeah, a little bit.
You got to pull somebody off to put somebody on. So that's the flip side of that. The third receiver or the tight end has to come off. So I don't know. Or the quarterback, pull the quarterback out and go Wildcat with one of them, I suppose. I don't know. They're going to do it all. I think they're going to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, man.
Kind of cool.
I'm just glad the quarterback is going to be a threat in the running game this year. If you're a defensive coordinator, you're a defensive player, and the quarterback is not going to run the ball, that helps you out tremendously. And Will Howard's not going to come out there and be Braxton Miller or Terrell Pryor or JT Barrett or Justin Fields, you name it. But he'll be an effective runner. Even with sacks last year at Kansas State, he was over 350 yards rushing. Kyle McCord had negative yards rushing at Ohio State because of sacks, which is, I don't agree with that rule, but that's how it is. So that's going to be a big factor. They have to get better when they have anything to goal. They were bad at 1st and goal, 2nd and goal, 3rd and goal, 4th and goal last year. One of the worst teams in the country. All right, let's finish it with this. Patrick, I'm just going to open the floor. Anything that stood out to you from watching practice yesterday that we have not gotten into?
Yeah, you and I touched on it a little bit yesterday, but Carnell Tate and just let's not forget about the other receivers in the room other than Jeremiah Smith, whom we all agree is going to be a superstar for this team. Carnell Tate had the best catches of the day. Emeka Egbuka also still pretty good at football. He didn't do a ton in practice. I don't imagine we'll see a ton of him in fall camp, just given the days that we're going to be out there. But this is a receiver room that we talked about it, Dave, the top 4 stacked. And I just think, yes, it's really cool that Jeremiah Smith could be a superstar freshman, but there's some other guys in there that are going to be really talented and demand the ball as well. I mentioned Demarion Witten. The only other things I would say from my notes, as I put on our message board on the front row, the defensive line, Jack Sawyer cut his hair. That's all I had from the defensive line. You know everything else about him. Gabe Powers was a guy who stood out to me that maybe I wasn't looking for when we walked out there. Those are probably the only other things I'd hit on with some like quick hitters there.
Steve, finish us off. Anything that you want to discuss that really stood out to you from yesterday?
Just the overall general talent of this team, the depth of this team at pretty much every position. They've recruited so well. There are so many good young players on this team. And, I've been worried about 2025 just because they're going to lose 15 or 16 starters off this team. And maybe my, thought process on that has been a little short-sighted, that between the 2023 and 2024 classes, they've got some outstanding young football players out there, and maybe it won't look quite as bad a year from now as I think it might. But that's hope we all make it to 2025. Let's just put it that way.
And if you're a Buckeye fan, if they win the national title this year, it's like you'll just
Who
whatever
cares?
happens, 25 happens, and it'll be good. Hey guys, great stuff. Really appreciate it. I'll see you guys here in like about a half hour. Great stuff. Steve Helwagen, Patrick Murphy. Keep it locked to Bucknuts. We're gonna have another practice report. We're gonna have videos, stories, pictures, all that good stuff. As Steve said, we're gonna meet with Jim Knowles after practice today. He's always entertaining, so keep it locked to Bucknuts. Thanks again to Patrick. Thanks again to Steve. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. We appreciate it very much. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day.